What's up guys, Hamsterwheel here with a new video, and we're back on Feenix's Warsong server. Now, as you might know, I was not exactly impressed with Feenix's leveling content, but what about their dungeon and raiding content? Well, that's the reason why we are back on this server, so without further ado, let's find out if their dungeons and raids are any good. So the thing I did first was look up if there are any pug runs on the Feenix server which I could join, and as it turns out, the people here run weekly pugs for ZG, MC and Blackrock Lair. They even have their own shifter page where you can check out when the raids are and at what time. Pretty nifty if you ask me. After that it was time to get a tune for Molten Core, which required me to run Blackrock Depths, which is an excellent opportunity to see what the dungeons are like here on this server. So I got myself a full group of people and we headed off to Blackrock Depths. Now, since we're all level 60, this should be a breeze, and to be honest, it doesn't matter much. It all comes down whether the mobs and fights are scripted correctly. So we enter the ring, and there you go. High Justice Grimstone spawns and walks towards the center like he should. He shows the correct animation for opening the gate, and there we have the mobs. After that, the boss spawns, which is not correct because he spawns before High Justice Grimstone popped the correct dialogue, so yeah, that is a little wonky. Moving on, we have the gate in BRD you have to walk over, and it doesn't take a skilled eye to see that this is definitely not the way it should be. Oh, and please keep in mind that it was like this the first time I went through this place on the server, which was years ago. After a few more bosses, we arrive at the Grim Guzzler, another part of the instance where I can see if things are scripted correctly. And yes, it works fine. Even the animation for the door being knocked down works perfectly. Even the fight in the Summoner's Tomb, where the mobs should attack you one by one, works great. And there we have it folks, the core fragment which is needed for the MC attunement. Time to finish this dungeon and call it a day. So looking back at BRD, I'm actually kind of impressed. I mean, yeah, the Ring of Law didn't work perfectly and the gate was clearly off and my pet's pathfinding was once again all over the place, but many mobs work just fine. And considering this is a level 56-ish dungeon, I'm curious to see what their raiding content looks like. Speaking of which, I actually managed to join a Blackrock Lair pug shortly after. Before the raid happened, we quickly killed the quartermaster for the pre-quest, we went to the Orb of Command, and bam, I was attuned for Blackrock Lair. So after that I went into Blackrock Lair and I was curious to see how Razorgore worked, considering I've been playing on Primal for so long and anyone who plays there knows the Razorgore fight is broken. Let's see if Feenix did a better job of scripting this boss. And here we go. Just gotta kill off the ads, move into position, and there we go, the mobs spawn correctly. It also seems the mind control mechanic works just fine, until I noticed something was off during the attempt to kill him. A few minutes later I whispered the raid leader and he confirmed that if the player controlling the orb gets hit by a fireball from an ad, he gets disconnected. And that bug has been there for years. I mean, come on Feenix. Still though, credit where credit's due, because apart from that, the fight is pretty much working as intended. Time for a DPS race, Veilstrus. We tried this boss several times, but we unfortunately could not kill him. It was fun doing this on a proper vanilla server, and especially on a hunter with that debuff which gives you unlimited mana. As far as I could see, the boss fight just works fine, so once again I'm impressed with what I saw. After that pug was done, because we couldn't kill Veil, I decided to join another pug. This one was for Zul'Gurub. So here we are at the first boss, High Priestess Yeklik. What I'm looking for is a few things. First of all the charge, which works, the bat spawning, which also works, and the fire bombs in phase 2, which also work. So we're off to a good start here in Zul'Gurub. Second boss, High Priestess Venoxis, also works as intended. The transition from phase 1 to phase 2 works and he's putting that nasty poison on the ground as he should be. After that we did Marley, the spider boss, and all is well here as well it seems. Moving on to Bloodlord, and yes, the charge works, the leveling mechanic works, as well as him watching you and having the line of sight him when that happens. To be honest, I'm very impressed with the way Zul'Gurub is working. We weren't able to kill Jindo, but apart from that we fully cleared the instance. Right, time for my last pug here that I can do, which is Molten Core. And when I wanted to go from Orgrimmar to Gromgol base camp with the Zeppelin, this happened. Yeah, and that happened almost every single time I went with that Zeppelin, which is quite annoying to say the least. Also, for some reason people had some really weird buffs. I don't know. Oh well, we made it. Let's see what MC is like on this server. First off, we got some trash, and the Fire Lords spawn the ads, and when they are not killed fast enough, they multiply. Well, that's a good start. So the first boss we did is Lucifron, and all is well here. He pops the correct debuffs. Also, Magmadar is throwing out fears like there's no tomorrow like he should be, and Gehennis was popping the Rain of Fires correctly, and as always, people find it very hard to move away from giant balls of fire falling from the sky. Baron Geddon had fun with making people the bomb. Luckily though, in this raid, everyone who got that debuff moved away correctly and no one got killed because of it. So after a few more bosses, we arrive at the final boss of Molten Core, Ragnaros. And 10 seconds into the fight, this happens. Yeah, I got knocked back and died in the lava, so I was unable to really see the fight itself. There were some things I did see though, including Ragnaros spazzing out like he was having a stroke, and from what I could see, the submerged phase worked fine. So after we killed that nasty ass Fire Lord, I was rest, got my share of the gold, and took one last picture in front of that epic maze from Ragnaros. So there we have it, my raiding experience on Feenix. I would have loved to join an actual raiding guild to see more bosses in Blackrock Lair, but due to the limited amount of time I have, this was all I could do. I'd also like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the community. I know I ripped on Feenix in the past for having a toxic community, and during these 3 pugs I didn't really notice any toxic behavior. I mean, sure, there were the 1 or 2 occasional assholes, but they were definitely the exception. So based on what I saw during my time here, I have to say that the community isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it's no Primal WoW, because in all of the pug raids I attended there wasn't a single peep in chat, which made the raids feel a little boring and dry. Now I understand that there needs to be focus when you're doing boss fights, but the occasional talk would have been nice. Unfortunately, there was none of that. Now in an actual raiding guild that might be a completely different story, but as I said before, I simply didn't have the time to join one. So, I guess it's time to look back at my time here and come to a final verdict. Now as I stated in my previous video, I wasn't impressed with their leveling content. There were so many lousy bugs that have been here for years, which can really put off someone leveling here, especially looking at what the competition has to offer. However, I have to say that my dungeon and raiding experience was a lot better. I mean, sure, there were some bugs here and there, like visual bugs, the disconnect bug during Razorcore and so on, but I wouldn't exactly call them deal breakers, and to be fair, most of the PvE content worked just fine. It's just that having a decent vanilla server isn't enough. It's like having a pretty good Wrath of the Lich King server, while there are so many other choices for people out there, and that is really what it boils down to. On its own, Feenix's Warsong server is pretty decent with an okay community, but it falls short compared to the competition, which makes you wonder why people decide to level here. The only way I can really recommend the server is if you're looking for a high rate vanilla server and you like the idea of skipping dungeon content and just voting for gear. If you're looking for a true vanilla experience on a polished server, then I suggest you look for something else. Feenix's Warsong server is decent, but in today's world, decent just isn't gonna cut it compared to the competition. And with that conclusion, I wave goodbye to my very first private server. May you actually, in the near future, get your shit together. And that's it for today. As always, I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm Hamsterwheel and have a good one.